Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. Now, how to put together unforgettable brand building events and why it even matters. That's the topic of today's episode. And to explain, I have Arielle Nakache, the founder of Barbarella Productions. Arielle is incredibly passionate about her purpose to bring brands closer to their ideal customers to support businesses to thrive. Arielle has over 20 years experience in hosting and coordinating incredibly fun and memorable events. As a super schmoozer, Arielle loves to build and nurture relationships and bring together people.
So they can schmooze.
Absolutely. Arielle firmly believes that to stand out against your competition, you have to love your customers, and she'll be sharing more on why team and client events are not just nice to have, but must have if you want your team and business to thrive. So welcome, Arielle.
Nice one. Thanks for the
Thank
intro.
you. That
Thanks
was
for
good.
having me, Des.
Thank you. So now, before we get started, I thought we'd throw it over to you to just tell us a bit about you and your background and how we got here today.
Okay, well, we've known each other a while.
We have.
But we started connecting last year. How I got here from the womb forward.
You don't have to go that far.
Or career trajectory. I mean, long story short, I was always into everything. I was one of these annoying kids who was teased a lot at school because I was into everything, you name it. Band, debating,
Yep.
sport, music. I was always on stage. I was very much a thespian on stage. So anyone meeting me now is like, wow, you're so confident. You love your emceeing and you love doing the razzle dazzle. It's because I've been doing it a long time. I guess I started my customer love journey when I sat on the stoop of my grandparents' shop. So I'm from immigrant, hardworking stock.
Yep.
Grew up in Bondi. And my grandparents opened the first black and white photography shop.
I remember it. I used to go there.
Sydney. And I didn't realise that at the time, but so you went there?
I used to go there. On Southend Road.
No, that was my parents.
That was your parents.
So my parents had so basically I grew up in a family of image kind of makers, imagery, photography, and capturing stories through still images, you know.
It's like 2 generations.
Yeah. So they supplied photography to the whole of Sydney.
Yep.
And what I didn't realise was that I was growing up learning about how to be in front of customers, how to love your customer, and old-fashioned service. You know, knowing who your customers are inside and out, kids' names, parents' names, dogs' names.
Yep.
You know, so I grew up both in my parents' shop and my grandparents' shop, learning how to interact with customers and schmooze, really, and have the customer feel like they're number one, and that when they walk in, they're the most important thing to that shop owner. And that's really hard to come by these days. I actually love it when I can go into a shop and say, "G'day, Muzz, my local bakery guy, his name's Muzz, and we talk about film and politics and philosophy. He knows me a bit, or he makes me feel like he knows me, and I love that. That is customer love. He might not know exactly what type of coffee I drink, but he kind of knows me. I've been going in there a long time, and so that's what I learned growing up. And then I fast forward to uni days, you know, again, I was one of those kids from an immigrant family that had to go to uni. So I had to pick something. So I picked communications because all my teachers thought I was great at the old yarn. Anyone who knows me knows I love a yarn. And I went into television, film production, and, spent 10 years kind of what I call the wilderness years. So I realized that, television, you know, whilst I was really creative, I became an editor very young. I was executive producing a television show at 21.
Yeah, wow.
A surf show. Got a boogie board, and I didn't realize I'd be boogie boarding for the next 10 years when I got that boogie board. I often wonder what would have happened if I got a surfboard, because now I surf. But
and now you're a professional surfer.
That's a whole other story.
It's another podcast.
But I did have a tough time because I worked in a lot of organizations that I consider now toxic. You know, they didn't necessarily nurture the young employee. I didn't have great mentoring. I worked a lot for not a lot of joy. There was financial reward, but I didn't know a lot of my colleagues. I felt very siloed as an editor.
Yeah.
So, in terms of team events, maybe there was something at the end of the year, but the day-to-day grind of working in those industries was really a punish for me.
Gotcha.
So by the time I was ready to do something else, I got into corporate training for a while, learned a lot about creativity and how the brain works and learning styles. And then I thought, let's invent a wheel, and married a man-child grommet who surfs and skates, and together we opened Australia's first skateboard school.
Wow.
So that was a huge endeavour. I tell you what, there's nothing like opening a skateboard school when you don't know how to skate and you don't know what a blood spillage policy is, and having to write risk management policies and procedures for blood spillage and OH&S. Ever since I did that, I can do anything, honestly. So
I can see that.
We did that, tick. And through doing that, I started to get to know the team at Red Balloon. And that became a very historical career decade for me, because inside of working under one of Australia's now most well-known entrepreneurs, Naomi Simpson,
Definitely.
I learnt about how to really glue a tribe based on a lot of different, it's a secret sauce, we call it. So there's a whole lot of best employers out there in the world, including Australia. And if you want to attract and retain really great talent, there is a secret sauce. It's not rocket science, but there's a secret sauce as to what these organizations do in terms of leadership, environment, nurturing every individual and bringing people together with amazing events. That gets people becoming best employees and having people like me want to, what they call the 3 S's of actively engaged employees.
Okay, here we go. The 3 S's. What are they?
They want to stay, say, and strive.
I like it.
So they want to stay in your organization. They're loyal. Actively engaged employees are loyal. They want to talk about your organization at a barbecue. Well, what do you
dinner on
how's
Saturday
work?
night.
What's going on? I learned a lot about employee engagement when I was at Red Balloon, and disengagement. Disengaged employees hate their jobs and do not want to talk about work after hours.
Exactly.
Engaged employees, people still think I work for Red Balloon because I was so, I was such a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
And so people want to talk about where they work. And as a brand ambassador, you want to sell in an organization to other people who are values aligned and might want to work with that organization. And then you want to strive. So happy people equals happy profits. Keep your people happy, and they will over deliver on their KPIs. Big profits. It's a no-brainer, really.
3 S's, I love it.
So I used to sell what we called happiness programs. They were employee engagement programs. Okay. But if we want to be a bit more warm and fuzzy about it, they were love programs, essentially. Because your first customers are your employees. Your best assets are your employees.
Without a doubt.
Right? So if you've got a team of 2, or a team of 20, or 200, or 2,000, you've got a global team, it's so important that you know your employees, that you look after them, you nurture them. If one of your employees says, I had a lot of hiccups in that 10-year period that I was at Red Balloon, my manager had my back, leadership had my back, I could have a nervous breakdown at work, as long as which I did a couple of times. If, people have issues with mental health at work, I'm a big advocate for mental health and talking about depression because I am a survivor. If your organization does not know who you are and does not give you the opportunity to know other people in the organization, not just in your own team, but in other teams, and cross-pollinate in that way, and if the organization isn't giving you the opportunity to celebrate milestones and successes, then you can very easily end up having a team of people, or even one employee, feeling disgruntled, resentful, and disengaged. And if someone's actively disengaged, they will just sabotage your business. So it's just not healthy to not look at the happiness of your people.
And I might just jump in there because I love that expression you used earlier. You said customer love. It's not just about customer satisfaction, it's about customer love. It's taking one step further. And as you say, it's the same goes for employees. It's not about employee satisfaction, it's employee love.
Absolutely.
You know? So this is a big theme of yours.
Absolutely. And when you look at the best employers or the most well-reputed, well-known international employees, the Apples of the world, for example, we know, if you've watched the documentaries, I get the feeling that Steve Jobs, and sorry for all the fans out there, I get the feeling that he wasn't the nicest guy. I know that he was adopted as a child, and he had some drama about he didn't want to acknowledge his daughter at one point, and he wasn't the greatest dad or person, but what he was great at was knowing how to put himself in his customer's shoes.
Definitely.
Have absolute empathy for the customer experience and make that customer feel like every single customer on the planet was being heard and listened to.
Definitely.
When you go into an Apple shop, you feel the love.
You do.
Because no matter where you go around the world, all of those people are brand ambassadors. They've all been trained with the Apple ethos. They're all values aligned. They probably get great perks as well. They probably have great team events. Going in there is an event in itself. They've got a great environment. So there's a lot of, in the secret sauce of engagement, not just how to engage your internal customers, but external, events play a large part. Small, medium, large, doesn't have to cost the earth. But bringing people together and showing them the love, spending a little bit of money gives you a lot of return on investment, because people will then say, hey, I did this great thing today. They'll go home and tell their family, work put on this great thing. Or they brought in all these masses. They used to do this thing for us at Red Balloon. They do it at Starlight Children's Foundation as well, which is another best employer. Coming up to end of financial year, get in some 1-minute masseurs. That's an event. And pull out some cupcakes.
An event for me.
Or if you're doing, who doesn't love a 1-minute massage? But, importantly, not everyone loves being touched. So do something else for those people. Know your people. I can give you so many examples of the ways that they honoured us individually, and other examples of,
actually, before we get into examples,
I'm rambling. When I get excited, I ramble. So if you're going to steer me, Dad, steer me, and we'll be talking about unicorns and
let's
pink elephants.
Let's go high level, and then we'll come down to that.
Let's go helicopter. Helicopter.
But we've kind of touched on why events are important, but if you want to add large and small companies, why are putting on events regularly so important?
Okay, so there's a number of different ways I can go with this, but again, let's focus on our internal employees, right? When you recruit someone into your business, let's talk about new employees. They decide whether they're going to stay and strive within the first 3 months. So most new employees will start, if they're not happy, or if there's something fishy, or if the brand they saw online or what they've heard about the business doesn't align with what it's like to work in the business, because that happens a lot, they will decide in that first 3 months whether they're going to tap out. Now, it might take them a year to find another job, but in that entire year that you're training and investing a lot of money in training that person, they could be already tapped out and looking to move out of your business, which costs your business, I've heard it takes about a year to get the return on investment of a new hire. So if you want that person to feel like they belong, you want to make sure they're inducted properly, you want to make sure that they, if they've got any questions, they feel safe, that the organization's a safe space, or the boss or the manager is someone they can trust.
They're brand advocates again for your company.
Absolutely. A very small event that I've experienced that Red Balloon did very well was our CEO or a team, one of the people in our executive team, would take all the newbies out for a breakfast within the first month of them joining the organization. That is a very small, low-cost thing to do, or take them out for a coffee. you know, and say, how you going? How's your first month going? And thanks for coming back every day. We actually used to get a letter from Naomi. New recruits, can you believe she used to write a handwritten letter to say thank you on the second day?
Oh my God, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for coming, and here's my book.
Wow.
And I really appreciate you turning up.
Okay.
Like, we didn't scare you on the first
Fantastic.
day. You know? So in the first 3 months, do something. Like a lot of the organizations, a lot of the programs that we used to sell around employee engagement, we used to have to re-educate organizations that were doing, you know, sure, they might do an end of year event.
Yeah.
And then if somebody had been around for 10 years, they might get an accolade or some kind of certificate or a gold watch. And we'd say, hey, you know, if someone's deciding in the first 3 months whether they're going to stay and play properly, because we used to call it play at Red Balloon. We did play a lot, which is very values aligned for me because that's one of my core values.
Yeah.
But it's really important to nurture your employees, whether they've been there for a year, 2 years, or 3 years. People are very quick to reprimand and talk about when someone hasn't done something well. And I keep this in mind all the time. I have 7-year-old twins. They're always doing shit I don't like, right? Yeah. They drive me crazy, and any parent will relate. So it's really important, you know, for me as a parent, knowing what I know about engagement and self-esteem to, you know, talk about best behaviors. And when they're doing something right, when your employees are doing great things, reward and recognize. And as part of rewards, you know, you can recognize them with the tap on the back and the thank you, and we really appreciate and we see what you're doing to give us ideas and innovation, and only really engaged employees will do that. Yeah. But as part of, if you don't have a reward system in place, or if you only work with one person, or again 1,000 people, find out what your people like to do and manifest it. You know, if they hit a milestone and have brought on, you know, 10% overachievement on their targets, let them know, you know, dangle it like a carrot, do a bit of a reward, and not just for the sales team, because often,
everybody,
most often in organizations, sales teams get a lot of perks, and then it's the quiet achievers and those in accounting or those in, you know, marketing get a lot of perks.
Behind the scenes that get left out.
The people behind the scenes, they do. And so, you know, a really great program, again, for any size business is one where everyone feels like we're all in this together, we're all rising together. Yep. And if we do, you know, if you do want your team achieving on some big, hairy, audacious goal, you know, that's absolutely how we were managed at Red Balloon. Yep. We had the big, hairy, audacious goal, and then they broke it down into little milestones that we could all feel that we could contribute to individually, whether we were blowing up balloons or going out doing corporate schmoozing, which I did. I did everything, actually. I'll lick the envelopes at vouchers at Christmas time. Everyone got into it. We did have some amazing events, and we sold these. You know, what I love about what I do is that really any team, you know, you can have some very serious organizations. People used to say to us, well, you have so much fun at Red Balloon because it's a fun kind of brand. But it wasn't always fun. You know, making 100 cold calls a day ain't that fun. No. Getting a lot of rejection ain't that fun.
You still got to do the work.
You got to do the work. So we used to say, look, most people, the commonality with the universal thing is that everyone's got dreams. Everyone's got stuff they want to do and tick off their bucket list, right? Yeah. So if your organization, we talked a lot about employer branding, and I talk a lot about that when I talk about team events, because if you want to stand out and, you know, say you sell mattresses, that's a big business now, mattresses, online buying of mattresses.
Definitely.
Have you heard about it?
Definitely.
Big competition in mattresses. So who are you going to buy from? You're going to buy from a mattress company that, you know, you're buying from based on price? No, not necessarily. People want to buy from organizations they trust. We all trust Apple. Yep. Might not like the man behind Apple, but we trust it. Yep. We trust their listening. We trust the brand. So you want to buy a mattress these days, and you're comparing oranges for oranges. The business that's going to grab your attention is one that maybe has a podcast about mattresses.
Sure.
And why, you know, a good mattress or a dud mattress can make or break your back or your relationship or your love life, you know, that's important. that business that has forward-thinking, storytelling and happy staff who are going out on events or ticking things off their bucket list or having team breakfast, say it's a sales drive, end of financial year, and they get the 1-minute massages in, or they have, the skydive and all the family goes out and takes photos and things like that. But team events where people can get to know each other, getting all the teams in from interstate.
Definitely.
Now these things do cost. The bigger the event, of course. But we're talking, just how long is a piece of rope? People often ask me, how much is it going to cost to do ABC?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we look at the objective. Is it bringing people together? Is it team building? It's all team building.
Yeah.
I mean, people kind of yawn with the whole team building sounds very 80s, but I love anything 80s.
If we jump now from events for your employees, what about events for your customers and your clients and for your potential customers? How important are they and how regularly should you do them?
Great questions. Look, again, it comes down to the product and the appropriateness of what it is you're trying to achieve and what the product is and how that all aligns,
You've got to know your target market, you've got to know their behavior, and you have to know, put that together with the resources that you have and work out your strategy.
Absolutely, but I'm thinking of Boost Juice, for example. The fantastic woman who started, Janine Ellis, she's also a shark.
Everybody.
She and they're tight. Every now and then you'll go past a Boost or you'll get some, I used to get the Boost feed before I minimized my, I used to get, does anyone else get bamboozled by inbox overflow? You jump onto all these, newsletters and it's like, so the only one I say now that anyone should subscribe to is Barbarella Productions and yours, Suspended
Animation and Barbarella.
But Boost Juice is a fantastic brand. They made juice fun. Juice has always been healthy, but they brought juice to the world and put a big price tag on juice, and made it fun so much so that any millennial would want to work there. When they, like with Messina, sometimes they do 2-for-1 ice creams or free ice cream on a particular day, or all proceeds from a particular kind of ice cream go to the bushfire appeal, which is what's happening now with a lot. So that's a particular kind of community engagement event that a lot of companies, again, that might be the remit of the marketing team. But if you've got a smaller business, and I talk to a lot of financial advisors, photographers, life coaches, and their businesses are very one-on-one. So how do you amplify your brand and get people talking about your brand? Now, again, there's a number of ways we can skin this cat, and events is just one of them. But how's about, last year I was involved with the Bonet Innovation Alliance event, and previous to them launching their new brand, it was all online. They had a lot of people very engaged with their online, very compelling conversations about innovation and where we're going. But they decided, let's do a big community event, bring people together, because essentially a lot of geeks and people working on podcasts, no offense, and working on apps and doing their thing to do with innovation are in their little caves at home. So
theoretically, anybody, even community bodies, can put on events to create awareness.
Brand amplification, letting the community know what your values are. I've been working with a couple of life coaches who I'm talking to about a collaborative event. So maybe you don't want to do an event on your own. Say if you wanted to, I know there's a lot of competition in your industry.
Definitely.
And you're great with your me, look at what I do.
Marketing.
And kudos. But there's a lot of photographers out there who don't want to put the limelight on themselves and do the me. So if that's a lot of the people that might be listening to your podcast, it's really important to, collaborate with other people either in your industry, like-minded, or those that can complement your industry, and put on a showcase event. Talk about, it could be educational. It could be about letting the community know what you do, with a bit of a taste test of what you do. It could be to do with offering out a special, or it could be on a yacht. So we used to I used to love my job at Red Balloon. People used to say, why'd you leave? But that's a whole other story. But, we were selling into HR. So what are we going to do? 1,000 phone calls. We used to go to trade shows. But the best way to, get an HR person understanding really the benefit of our programs, which I could love gratitude programs, was to hold them captive on a yacht. America's Cup yacht.
Fantastic.
Get everyone out there, bit of grog, food, an hour on a yacht. Everyone has an amazing experience. They get to tick something off their bucket list. We have people yachting who always wanted to do that. What do you call it? Do you yacht? Are you a boat guy?
When you do that?
I should know. I went on so many. I went on tall ships, yachts, jet boats.
If anybody knows out there, feel free to send us a message.
Yeah. But those sorts of experiences, when people allowed themselves the time out of the office to do them, were fun. They were great for conversation starters. They're great for, showing your customers a bit of love.
Sure.
Like, if your customer doesn't know you love them, like if you invited me on a yacht and gave me a bit of Prosecco and some food, I'm yours.
Yeah,
I am yours. I'm party in your hands, darling. Anyone needs a photographer,
You heard it here first.
Putty. Seriously, I am a pushover for fun stuff. And again, an event doesn't have to be all about fun. Like, I do think that people like to kind of loosen the ties and figuratively, and everyone's working so hard, and now everyone's throwing their money at the fireys, out of generosity. So we've got to work harder, and we've got to put more in the bank to give to the fireys, and I know that the big stressy times of the year when you need your teams to push a little bit and strive just that little bit harder, there's a lot of rolling eyes in organisation. A lot of people who are engaged feel the fatigue, at the end of each quarter, and when the KPIs are being looked at during review times, and then towards Christmas, So again, events don't have to cost the end of the earth. I mean, I was working at a startup a couple of years ago. Have you heard of Car Next Door?
No.
Shared consumption, very forward thinking. You can, our car's sitting downstairs. Some stranger can lease it out if you're trusting. Okay. And you can earn money from it. So it's win-win, cheaper than a hire car. And being a startup, they were very, they were very frugal. They were very generous with their stuff. They had a little reward and recognition program. People could say thanks with a coffee voucher in a meeting. But they also did this great thing of a team lunch. So once a week, someone could offer to make a team lunch for everyone else. It did dent productivity a little bit when you were the person cooking for 30 people, especially when I was cooking. Being Hungarian, Algerian, I like to cook up a storm because it's part of my status. I've got to I did goulash one. It was just next level, right? Or couscous. I can't remember that. But that is an amazing, easy way to bring people together. Gotcha. And we were all head down, punching. I remember the CEO had this incredible way of getting everyone's KPIs down to work by the minute, which is tough for someone like me because I can schedule down to the hour, and I'm very punctual, but down to the minute, be accountable for everything you're doing every minute. Now, when you're working people that hard, and we worked, that is any startup, will get their people working every little bit, especially millennials who don't know any better. But I knew, getting people working like that is hardcore. To expect people to work like that who may not be naturally inclined to work like that.
And that's why it's so important to put on events for your employees as well as your clients.
Keep praising, just give your people some love. Just give them love, and it'll give you back so much more in terms of people loving you back with loyalty, with productivity, with referring great people into your organization, with customer referrals. So, a smart business will absolutely be looking at and lining up, if you've got a marketing team, discuss with marketing which milestones can we celebrate, and if we don't hit the milestones as a team, how can we still, can we
celebrate
have a fallback?
Along the way, something.
Still be doing things along the way. Another thing that I loved at Red Balloon was that we had buddies. and like at school. Because it's just like school.
It is like school.
Really, when you go to work.
School for big kids.
Big school. And there are bullies at big school, which again, know your people, make sure people are being looked after. Yeah. Events is part of the secret sauce.
So let me cut you off for 1 second. Let me jump into, obviously we've had a great chat about why events are so important for employees, why events are so important for your customers, for brand awareness, even if you're a charity or if you're some kind of other body. How do we put together an event? Really briefly, what are some of the 2 or 3 steps in the process for putting together a good event?
I'm going to give you a great examples of an event that I didn't organise, but that I participated in recently.
Sure.
I think, look, if you've got some social team or someone who's really gung-ho about doing events in your organisation, great. Yeah. But most organisations don't build events into the KPIs or the remits of an employee. And what can then happen is that you end up having an employee who maybe loves the social stuff, but then feels really stressed and drops the ball on the job they're supposed to do because of what you've dumped on them in terms of a huge big event. Event management is an art.
Definitely.
We're talking, somebody said to me a couple of weeks last year, my boys go to Bondi Beach Public School, they were like, we heard you're good at organising stuff. We got this thing we got to do. I'm like, sure, I could help. Next thing, I'm organising a barbecue for 700 people.
My Lord.
And 15 suppliers.
Wow.
Jumping castles. Ice. Who's going to bring the ice?
Oh my God.
Where are the bins going to be located? Yeah. OHS.
Yeah.
Who's looking after gates and security to make sure we don't have any riffraff coming into the school? Ice creams, how are we going to keep them cold? Yep. Face painting, who's doing that? Who's going to give the volleys beer, the volunteers? I was very invested in making sure that each and every one of my volunteers...
Who's going to rally up the parents to make sure we have assistants?
Who's going to spread the word? Who's going to do the poster? Who's going to... what about wet weather? And how do we engage the kids and get them involved so they can own this?
Yep, and then bring other people to
So think about your organisation. The kids are your employees. You want to give them ownership.
Yep,
what do the kids want? Do they want to go laser shooting or think about your people first of all. Are you talking about, coming back to your question, was it your internals, your people?
Any events really. It can,
right. So think
works for people as well because it's about your audience.
Think about your stakeholders. Do they want to do something active? Do they want to do something more low key? Would it put an absolute fear into the veins of someone to talk to them about jumping out of a plane?
Yeah, or going shark diving.
Not everyone wants to do the same thing. If you're doing a big event though, here's how I think a big event could roll. So I recently participated, as you do if you like fun like I do, in the Vogue 60th Australian flash mob, the icebergs.
Oh, wow.
Somebody that I'm getting to know who knows I love a good time let me know that she wanted to see some Barbarella moves at this flash mob, and anyone who knows me knows I love this stuff. So what I loved about this event was, first of all, I'm not a huge... I like fashion, and I appreciate Vogue, and I learn a lot from Devil Wears Prada and how fashion.
You're very fashionable today, I can see.
Thank you, darling. All offshore. And the flattery will get you everywhere, Dad. So look, this event was, as far as I'm concerned, a great example of brand exposure and amplification. One, they put the word out through this amazing comedian who now is famous worldwide, Celeste Barber, to come and do a flash mob in honor of Vogue's 60th.
Wow.
Now, I was more interested in the flash mob. I didn't even know Celeste at that point. This was about 2 months ago. I just like the idea. I go to the icebergs all the time. So that was a tick for me. Flash mob, free breakfast, I'm in, Next, there was the pool of goodie bag. Who doesn't love a goodie bag? So they had sponsors give them stuff for the goodie bags. Free breakfast.
Tick.
Community event. Love that. They also had the fun tick for me because a lot of people haven't been to the icebergs. So take people to an amazing space and get them, give them the chance to do something they've never done before that they'll talk about.
Absolutely.
So I was talking about that on social. I was talking about that to my family who think, you know, they're like, yeah, Arielle's just doing her thing. I was talking about it to on LinkedIn, you know, because I thought, wow, what an amazing, they shot video. They had it live streamed. They had a drone. Wow. You know, sky's the limit.
Oh my God.
They, and also, I actually thought we were going to do it on the inside of the pool because they empty the pool every Thursday.
Oh wow!
So anytime I go to don't go for a sauna. It's one of Bondi's best kept secrets, but you can't go.
The icebergs every Thursday.
Every Thursday
empty.
they clean it. That's why it's so beautiful. Okay. But I'm muttering because people don't like me to, you know, diehards who go to that sauna. They don't like me spreading the word. But it's out. It's one of the best bits of soul food you can get in Bondi. It's only $8. You don't have to be a member.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
Awesome.
Did you just?
I just knew that.
Yeah, right.
Very good. Another one.
Barbarella love. Yeah. So look, what was amazing was we didn't do it in the pool, but they rented the icebergs for an hour.
Yeah.
It was about an hour. We were in and out. So that's the other thing.
It can be quick.
It can be quick. It can be before hours. We were out by 8 o'clock.
Wow.
Breakfast was cheap. I think they got it from Woolies. They got all the croissants. We didn't care.
Okay.
Didn't care. Cheap and cheerful. Yeah. And
it
was so cheap and cheerful. And it was so fun. And you know, again, I know introverts who would, you know, rather poke their eyeballs out than do something like that.
Yeah.
And that always, whenever I meet an introvert, I'm always really grateful. And I had someone share with me the other day that some of the stuff I do online freaks her the hell out because she's so like, I don't want to, it's very loud, and she really loves me for it and wants to try and be more that for her own brand. But it's not everyone's natural thing. And you know, I work with a lot of companies that are very low key and much more kind of, you know, the work they do might be in fun,
more conservative or professional,
in professional services, and I'm like, no problem.
Yeah.
Then we're talking more, you know, we tailor it. We absolutely tailor it. You know, so when somebody asks me how do we do that for our brand, you know, there's a whole brief that I need to download from them. What's their objective? So it's good to have an objective. Again, is it team building? Is it community engagement? Is it brand amplification? Is it fundraising?
And then what's your budget? And then you work with what you have.
And begin with the end in mind. Start with a date. What's your budget? Budget's absolutely important. Hard with zero, but possible. You just can't hire me for zero, but twist my arm, anything's possible. I keep saying I don't do pro bono, but flattery.
I mean, obviously, you just mentioned how many different examples. You can still do some great things on a very low budget. You just have to be creative.
Absolutely. And actually, some of the best events that I've been to, including my wedding, have been very low budget, barefoot on the beach.
And how fun is that?
And we have a great opportunity, you know, in Australia and Sydney, but, you know, put me on a plane, I'll run an event anywhere. But we do have a great opportunity with so many beautiful event spaces, indoor and outdoor. It is tricky. It's good to have a plan B if you're planning for an outdoor event. But we're optimists, us Aussies. I went to an event yesterday at Bronte. Very optimistic of our local council to put on an event there. It was great.
Awesome.
Just put on your gumboots, it's fine. You know? And it makes it more fun, you know, if it's raining on your parade. I've been to a few Mardi Gras. I used to work on the Mardi Gras. Met Bono. That's my claim to fame. Awesome. Bono, they're ready for your close-up.
Very nice.
He said thanks, that was it. And it was raining, but you know.
Rain, hail or shine?
You just plan.
Show must go on.
Coming back to your question, how to run a seamless event, which is really important to me. Control the controllables, you know, and that includes budget. Work with a professional if you can afford it. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg.
Actually, I'll get onto that in 1 second. That's my next question.
Yeah. How much does it cost?
No, my next question is, how important is it to outsource this? And can you do it? I mean, I suppose, you know, how long is a piece of string? But
well, again, coming back to my wedding, I didn't outsource for an event coordinator, a marriage, wedding event planner, because I'm an event manager, but that was a production.
Yeah.
A wedding is a production. I get it. Like, I think it's prudent if you're not an event coordinator to hire a wedding planner. I can do weddings. I think if you've got a team of, I'd say, 20 plus, and you're busy and your team's busy, and you've got maybe $2,000-3,000, get an event planner.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost an arm and a leg. To consult with someone like me should only cost a few $100s to make sure that something's going to go smoothly on your budget. It takes a lot of headache. If somebody says to me, I want to do a dinner or a lunch or a breakfast for my team of 20, what would you recommend? How much over? I can just take all the hard work out of it because that's what I do every day.
Exactly. And I was just thinking,
I know all the different venues and I have deals with different venues.
Exactly. That just hit me. Just like a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
Normal house hunters don't always have access to everything.
That's right.
Same thing with when you outsource an event to an event coordinator.
Yeah.
They might have access to certain things that you can't get access to.
Yeah.
So even that's
absolutely. And when you are having your event, if you were going to schmooze 20 people to get them on your podcast, you don't want to be worrying about AV or when the drinks are coming or the lights or that the music's, you're in an open restaurant and you were told you'd have a private room, but the music's being channeled through the private room. It's too loud. Exactly. So I can't help myself. I was at an event last year, it was a BX one actually, and the music was that loud, so I was like, I'm going downstairs, I'm just going to do something about that. So an event manager will just
take all that off your hands.
You just want to be swimming.
You can be present and have fun, and all that's taken care of.
Think of the swan. You just want to be swanning, and the event manager is paddling. Hard paddling. You just need to have that too. I see. You're in charge. Like you're there to schmooze. Yeah. But anything you need, you just want to have that event manager have your back.
That's right. That's actually a really good point because it's not even about the lag time and the production time to the event that you might lose. It's also about while you're at the event. Because you have to be there present with your people, with your employees, with your guests, with your community, and you don't have to worry about everything else that's going on. So it's even that takes away that.
And also, it's stress. And you don't, again, I've worked on enough events to know that you do not want that job if you can afford to not be doing that job, and you don't want to task anyone in your team with that job if they're not really good at it. If you've got someone that's great at that stuff and they've got time, they want to do it, let them do it. But otherwise outsourcing a bit is helpful and will eventually, ultimately save you money because you're not, also the pitfalls of events and spending too much. The only way to learn is through mishap, and I've run events and spent too much on this, that, or the other because I didn't know any better. So you don't want to fall into those sorts of pitfalls. Also, in terms of leveraging your event, an event manager, depending on who you go with, I'm always very quick to say to someone, look, have you thought about leveraging your event by working with this nonprofit and doing some sponsorship, or working with this sponsor who can bring in some non-alcoholic beverages or some floral artistry to your event because they're looking for brand exposure. So a good event manager should add value to your event by suggesting, out of the box kind of ideas
and compliments and
because you're very close to your product and how you like to do things. Being in the world of events, and the events that I've run before, if you said to me I need dancing girls or someone to jump out of a cake or elephants to walk
trapeze
through,
artist
or a trapeze or I need the drinks to like steam,
indoor fireworks,
you name it, just I got it. I got like one of those, what do you call the old-fashioned Rolodex. I got the Rolodex. And I got the people, and you just ask. And if I don't know that person, somebody, the fire guy will know that person, And events aren't just static things. Last year, this amazing, Fireball whiskey? The smell of it, right? It's like big red cinnamon chewing gum. Pulls up in front of my house, right? And it's like, imagine a truck that looks and smells and sounds like Fireball, the brand.
Wow.
I sat in that truck because, of course, I gotta know what's going on,
of
right?
course.
So the whole sales team were doing balls across the road.
You were taking a joyride.
I was taken for a joyride past the school, right? Smoke coming out. It smelled like cinnamon in this thing, right? And I say to the guy, like, have you sprayed cinnamon? What's going on? He's like, I've got this Ambipure type thing,
cinnamon,
right?
Scent
coming through and the vinyl smelled like it, which was hot red,
God.
and the whole thing. And then he opens the dash, and there's like, shot glasses. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do shots while he's drinking.
No, of course not.
But I did. It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, beer o'clock somewhere. So, I mean, that is another kind of...
And it's an experience.
Brand exposure.
Experience.
And I saw that van the other day, and he's now zhuzhing it to look like Sailor Jerry's.
Oh, wow.
So I know these people who do that stuff.
Yeah.
And who can jump out of a plane and land. And, we used to throw CEOs out of planes at Red Balloon and, like, land on a
with their
helicopter
permission,
pad. Yeah. But there's nothing, like, if you can't send your whole team out skydiving, but you're about to launch a new product or something, or you want to amplify, or you're a sole trader, and you want to do something amazing and have it videoed and tell a story about it. I call myself an event concierge because I can make all of that happen and make it look like something large, but it was just one little thing that you did. But then you get all the brand leverage from that because you write the story and you put it on LinkedIn. You get the crowd going. You promote it. You can do a, shave the head type thing for charity, and then you promote it.
Fantastic.
It's how long. So when someone says, "How much is an event with you?" I'm like, "How long is your piece of string?" Because don't get me started. Just tell me your budget.
Yeah.
And if you've got no budget, I've got ideas too, but less time. So buy me coffee. I can do no budget event chats or have a sauna. I like having meetings in the sauna.
Fantastic. I love it.
Sauna, spa, surf meetings.
Or icebergs on Thursday when it's
A
raining.
meeting is an event. Not on Thursdays. But look, events are, I think, coming back to the Bondi Innovation Alliance, we had a panel of, I know we're finishing up, but just to close up, we had a panel of forward-thinking futurists. And the thing that came up for me, or when I got excited, was when they said that in this constantly changing, future-focused world, and you're very future-focused with your podcast.
Definitely.
The new wireless,
Yep, the new radio. Podcast is the new radio, folks.
You can use that. It is just so important that we remember to be human, and that's what the soundbite that I got.
I like
It was
that.
like anything to do with sustainability, or the health and wellness industry is going to get you going places. Obviously apps are big, podcasts are big, gonna be bigger.
Definitely.
Everyone's going to have a podcast soon. You might not like it, but it's happening. But remembering to be human, and I think podcasts feed into that. Video, that's why videos are more, YouTube and the...
Video is very important because it allows you to humanize your brand.
Absolutely. Humanizing your brand, being human. One of the things I loved about working at Red Balloon, one of the many things, was that we could say sorry if we messed up. If a supplier didn't turn up, I'll never forget, whole family went out to do hot air ballooning, called us the next day and said, the guy didn't show. It was 5 o'clock. Can you imagine turning up with babies? And there's mist rising. And you've driven for maybe 2 hours. And they've spent like $2,000 for this family experience. The guy didn't show.
Disaster.
Right? So we said sorry.
Yeah.
We refunded. Well, we actually, I schmoozed and I turned it into an exchange. They were just didn't want to go there again. But, say sorry because, so many brands, it's just in terms of humanizing. It's like, again, dealing with children.
And sometimes that's all it takes. A simple sorry is
sorry.
all it takes.
Say sorry. See how you can make it up to them.
Yep.
Buy your customers a coffee or take them out on an event. How do we get to that? Human. Yeah, human. And again, I just wanted to come back quickly before we finish to team building. I'm very invested and think it's very important that you bring your team together to get to know each other on a regular basis. There's the external events we've talked about, and brand marketing events, product launches. But it's just so important to bring your teams together to talk with one another and to cross-pollinate. And even if you've got a small team, and even more important if you've got big teams, and then film it and share it around. Share it with the community, share it with your external teams and your satellite teams, because people do feel isolated. And you have people working in your organization. If you've got an organization of 10 people or more, or 7 people or more, someone in that organization is suffering a mental health issue. There's 1 in 7 or 1 in 5 that are suffering right now mental health issue. I've had depression. There's infertility grief. Someone goes through chemo. Their child is unwell. Their relationship is having a breakdown.
As well as the fact that because technology is so good, we feel even more isolated than we ever have.
Absolutely. I've worked in organizations where everyone's sitting down eating lunch because it's part of the culture to do that. They've normalized that.
That's nice.
And no, at their desk.
Oh, at the desk.
Yeah. And the Gen Xer, is seen to be
the outcast of
the outcast, but also the person who maybe isn't working as hard because I'm eating my lunch outside and having a break for the sake of my productivity. So I just think it's so important. I'm talking about big cultural shifts here. We weren't allowed to, in case you're guessing, not allowed to eat lunch at your desk at a Red Building. Go outside, talk to a colleague. Create spaces where people can eat together. Or better still, get someone, if you don't have a kitchen, order takeout. Where do we do that? I worked for a startup not long ago, and we had takeout once a month. You don't have to do it once a week, once a month. Team meeting, takeout, pizza, So you can do stuff on every budget, and it's just so important not to make excuses for it. Too busy, no budget.
Definitely. I mean, there's no excuses, because later on when you need to have your employees engaged and working for you and your advocates, it's too late. You have to build this before.
Absolutely. And people will hide their problems at work, especially in large organizations. But I've worked in small organizations and not been really that okay. And I haven't had the management structure or felt safe to be able to speak to people about how I'm going. But put people in a safe environment at an event, you never know what magic will happen or what will come out from an event like that. Create space where your people can connect as humans and create ways that they can get into conversation that's outside of the office. If you want your team to come up with great ideas, get them out of the office. If you want them to innovate, get them out of a boardroom, and don't expect your team to want to perform, and don't keep flogging them if you keep them inside the constraints of the organization all the time. It's suffocating, and it's not great for creativity, and it's not great for the human either, and connectivity. And we just more and more in this virtual world of AI and VR and all the other things. If you don't know what I'm talking about, email
every
me.
app and text and message and
we
platform
there's more prevalence of depression and mental health issues now than ever, and we need to keep connecting. So we end on a serious note. But let's go have coffee, shall we?
Definitely. And now, what a fantastic little soundbite and lots of great information.
Soundbite? We spoke for 50 minutes.
Lots of great information about putting together events for your employees, for your organization, for your brand, on any budget, and why it's so important. And if anybody wants to...
More fun on a bigger budget.
And more fun, absolutely. And if anyone wants to talk to you or hear about your services, how can they contact you?
Yes, so I'm Barbarella Bondi on Insta.
Okay,
at Barbarella Bondi. You'll find barbarallaproductions.com.au on Facebook and I have a website with case studies.
Great.
And
Email?
I am very old-fashioned, yes. You can call me. So
Just
Daz
put it out
has all
there.
my details. So Daz, that's how you spell Barbarella, in case you need to know. I would just pick up the phone and call me. But if you want an event quote or anything like that, I do actually work quite a fair bit out of the Heart Cafe down in Bondi.
Okay,
We can meet down there. I can show you around the spaces there. I work with other spaces as well. Email, call me. Let's be human. Have a chat.
Awesome.
Or sit in a spa or go have a surf. Yeah.
Well-
Whatever tickles your fancy. Holy moly, golf.
Fantastic.
Let's have fun.
Let's
Fun's
do
one
it.
of my core values. Where is it? Play. Yeah. I got it there in writing. Yeah, and if we're not having
Playing,
fun,
love and love.
if we're not having fun, I ain't doing it.
Right.
So you can be guaranteed fun. And I think, there is so much hardship and dark stuff going on in this world. I think we just need to deflate a lot.
Definitely. And I've
Frequently.
witnessed Arielle put together an incredible event last year that I was part of, that I photographed. And it was amazing to see how she brought so many great people and things together. And the execution was flawless. So if anybody
Thanks,
wants
Daz.
to talk to a good event coordinator, a fantastic event coordinator, talk to Arielle.
Was that mystery shopping? You're just
I
spying
will
on
not.
me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
That was so much fun.
Love.
Let's go have some coffee.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye. Mwah. That was long.